Welcome to our class in strategic leadership. So, strategic leadership, by definition, looks at the capacity to anticipate, to envision, to maintain flexibility, and to empower others to create strategic change as necessary. So, it's a leadership approach which actually focuses on long-term organizational goals. Strategic leadership or strategy itself is long-term. It looks at um, how unlike operational and technical leadership, it looks at how an organization can center on a long-term horizon in ensuring that the organizational goals are maintained, they remain competitive, they remain innovative and resilient over a period of time. So in today's versatile and uncertain and complex environment, strategic leadership is more certain than ever because of this rapid technological advancements, globalization, and shifting consumer preferences and social political changes. We have leaders who play a vital role in not only responding to changes that happen there and then, but they position themselves to changes that may happen in future. So we have strategic leadership who guide organizations through these complex visions or episodes of their growth stages. So these leaders are there to ensure that they maintain and follow the vision of the particular organization. They'll set direction and align people and resources based on a long-term vision. So strategic leadership, in a nutshell, is relevant across all sectors, be it in government, be it in parastatal companies, be it NGOs, as well as academic institutions. Why? Because it enables institutions to maintain their relevance and to deliver on their mission and remain financially and socially sustainable. So we're going to look at the core characteristics of strategic leaders. Okay, so these strategic leaders should demonstrate a certain unique combination of attributes, which we call cognitive, emotional, and behavioral attributes. So they should distinguish themselves from other types of leaders. So strategic leaders have a certain characteristic that puts them apart, sets them apart to operate in an efficient and uncertain manner in this ever-changing environment. So here are some of the characteristics that we're going to look that envision that are embedded in strategic leaders. Number one, they have the attribute of visionary thinking. Visionary thinking. So strategic leaders are forward-looking. They usually develop and articulate a clear, compelling vision that paints a picture of the desired future state. They look forward and not now. So this vision is what serves them as a guiding star. They behave like prophets in an organization setup, lack of a better term. So they ensure that they align organization activities. They also allocate resources appropriately and also make stakeholder efforts towards a common long-term objective. So their vision thinking enables them to inspire others, to motivate others, and to create that sense of purpose and direction. So they are visionary. The second attribute is that of cognitive complexity. Cognitive complexity. So they must deal with ambiguity and unpredictability in independent systems. They require analytical and systematic thinking capabilities. So that attribute of leadership where leaders who have strategic challenges that are rarely simple, they're often tasked with numerous situations which involve numerous stakeholders and certain outcomes and also competing priorities. So effective leaders that have effective strategic leaders who actually possess this cognitive complexity, which is actually the ability to perceive, to analyze, to synthesize complex information from different sources. So this kind of thinking is what enables them to think in a systematic way. They understand how interdependent decisions are within and outside an organization. So they have an ability to hold multiple and contrary perspectives simultaneously. They think like a supersonic computer. The other attribute is that of decision making. So these strategic leaders must have high impact decisions that will often are made in conditions of ambiguity or incomplete data. They're able to make decisions where there's insufficient data. So they demonstrate their decision-making ability by balancing up their thoroughness with speed. A strategic leader must include the ability of weighing risks and opportunities, and also must consider short-term trade-offs for long-term gains. So they are able to forego short-term gains that are temporal for long-term benefits that are beneficial for an institution in its entirety. So strategic leaders must adapt their decisions to new information that come about. They remain calm under pressure, and they're not paralyzed by uncertainty. They're composed. The other attribute is that of influence and persuasion. Influence and persuasion. So strategic leaders do not really solely rely on authority. They use influence, they use trust, they use persuasion to gain stakeholder support. So as you get to answer these questions, make sure that you actualize them in situations that are applicable or that are well known, or even in your company situation. So rather than relying on formal authority that most managers would want to have, strategic leaders will use what? Influence. They use precision to align with the stakeholders. So they will build collisions and establish trust and communication effectively to gain the commitment that the organization will give them. So they are emotionally intelligent. They have that emotional intelligence, and they also are subtle at the same time. So they understand how to navigate interpersonal and organizational dynamics. Then they have an attribute of ethical responsibility. Ethical responsibility. Can you elaborate on that point in your own perspective with the guide of the notes in the core characteristic of strategic leaders? Ethical responsibility.
I think ethical responsibility deals mainly with sorry, I'm just opening the notes. Oh my God, my phone has even gone off. Yeah, just mainly being
They not only focus on profits or short-term
yeah,
success, so they consider how the decisions will affect people outside, right? Those are called ethics, how the decisions will affect their environment and the future generation. So
yeah,
leaders who understand that the decision they'll make now will have a what? A far-reaching consequence that if they don't do it right now, it may affect the future generation. So they don't only make popular decisions for the firm, they may make unpopular decisions, but these decisions are important because they uphold values of honesty, fairness, and transparency. So they make sure that their strategies, they make sure that their actions are open to scrutiny, such that should there be an action that will be made and an audit that will be taken, they are committed to having integrity beyond their name. So these are leaders that are committed to doing business in a way that respects the law, it respects the human rights, it respects environmental sustainability. So they promote fairness in an organization. For instance, they may support fair labor practices or equal promotion opportunities to avoid harmful practices like corruption. So that's what we mean by ethical what? Ethical responsibility. Now, what are some of the key functions of strategic leadership? Key functions of strategic leadership. Number one, we have the function of setting direction. Function of setting direction. So strategic leaders will provide a clear sense of purpose and vision for the organization by developing and communicating a compelling vision. So these leaders will paint a picture of what the organization should become in the future. So this vision will inspire everyone working towards that common goal. They will clarify the organization values because organization goals and values and cultures are embedded in the DNA of an organization. So whoever comes and leaves should ensure that they follow the culture that the organization has. So leaders will define these core beliefs and also the behaviors that will shape how people work together. So they have a strong culture that will help people guide their decisions and trust. And last but not the least, they'll prioritize strategic objectives. So leaders will identify the most important goals and they will ensure that resources are channeled and focused on ensuring that these activities are driven successfully. The second function of strategic leadership is in aligning the organization. So strategic leaders will make sure that the organization will work together efficiently to achieve its goals. How? By building structure that will support strategy, by ensuring the right people are in the right roles, by creating feedback mechanisms and performance indicators. So leaders will design systems and roles and processes that will help implement the organization strategy smoothly. They'll put people with the skill, motivated people with the right positions so that the impact is seen most. So these leaders will use tools to monitor this progress and identify issues and make adjustments wherever they are needed. Leaders also mobilize change. They will ensure they mobilize change, okay? By encouraging innovation and adaptation, they'll manage resistance and leading through transitions and they'll build a culture of continuous improvement. So these are the attributes. So they encourage innovation and meaning they'll support creative ideas and help teams to respond quickly to these new opportunities. And managing resistance and leading through transition. So they'll change, change can be difficult wherever. So leaders will help people understand why this change is needed and will support them through the process. So this change has been done because of this objective that we intend to achieve or this objective that is in alignment with our core values. They'll build a culture of continuous improvement, meaning they'll promote a mindset where people are always looking forward to doing things better. Another attribute is that of capacity building. So strategy leaders will focus on developing what? Long-term strength through learning capacity of the organization. So they'll develop leadership pipelines. They will identify and prepare leaders to ensure there's continuity. It's what we call succession planning, where you get to prepare an employee for a future role to ensure that there's continuity and sustainability. They also invest in strategic learning and knowledge sharing systems where leaders will promote the training and collaboration, and they'll share ideas and experiences. They'll also enhance memory and adaptive learning. So they'll help the organization to learn from the past successes and failures and make smarter decisions in the future. So these are the key functions of strategic leadership. Any addition on what has been said so far?
No, I think it's well understood.
It's very clear. So now let's look at the strategic leadership versus tactical operational leadership. What are the differences between the two? And how do we differentiate them? When you're looking at strategic leadership and tactical leadership, both of them are very important in an organization, but they serve different purposes in terms of scope. Strategic leadership is a bigger picture. It looks at the long-term goals, the future growth, and sustainability. It looks at the outward, the competition, the society at large, whereas tactical operational looks at the daily operations. It ensures the tasks inside are correctly and efficiently done. It is more inward. It's concerned about specific departments and teams. Time horizon, strategic planning takes years, even decades. All right, it sets a path for the future, whereas operational leadership focuses on short-term results, like goals in a week, in a month, in a quarter. The leadership style that is adopted under strategic leadership is transformational, participative approach, where to inspire people, involving them in decision making, whereas tactical, it looks at directional and directive approach. It will give clear instructions and rewards and correcting based on performance. Skill, it emphasizes on vision setting, and managing change. That is under strategic leadership. Whereas tactical, it focuses on efficiency, coordination, and ensuring that tasks are completed on time. So, in a nutshell, when looking at strategic leaders, they look forward and steer the whole organization toward the future success. And when tactical leaders, they focus on what? Making sure that things run smoothly on a daily basis. Then emotional intelligence in strategic leadership. Emotional intelligence is an important component because it is one of the most important traits for effective strategic leadership. So it means being aware of your own emotions and understanding how they affect others. That is emotional intelligence. So you want to manage relationships wisely. So according to a psychologist, Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence has 5 key components. It's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management, and empathy. So these are the key elements. So what is involved in self-awareness? You need to understand one's emotions and their impact. What this simply means is that you need to know how you feel and why you feel so. So strategic leaders should understand these emotional triggers and how their moods, how their behaviors will affect decision making in the relationships within the organization. It also looks at self-management. Under self-management, we are taught that it looks at controlling emotions and impulses. Here, leaders must stay calm. They must be in control, especially in tough situations. So this means that you must be able to manage the stress, must be able to avoid overreacting, and stay focused. Social awareness. Under social awareness, you need to have an ability of sensing and understanding and reacting to other people's emotions. So here, leaders, in fact, good leaders should be turned into how others feel. They should pick on non-verbal signals. Okay, they must listen attentively. They must understand to group the dynamics and emotions. Then relationship management or social skills. So leaders must be able to manage interactions constructively. Okay, elaborate on that one. How do you understand that? Here, leaders need to build what? Strong relationships. They must communicate clearly. They must be able to resolve conflicts, and they must be able to know to inspire teams and help people to work together. Empathy under emotional intelligence is the ability to genuinely understand and care about how others feel. To be empathetic, leaders must connect with other teams and customers and stakeholders. So strategic leaders are known to use emotional intelligence to build trust, to communicate effectively, to manage change smoothly, to make smart decisions and people-oriented decisions. And this will help them create a positive culture and environment they work in. Strategic leadership and negotiation. Strategic leadership and negotiation. So what is negotiation? How is negotiation important in an organization? So when you're dealing with concept of leadership and negotiation, how do you understand the concept of negotiation um, in strategic leadership?
I think negotiation in strategic leadership is important, especially where there's decisions that need to be made, let's say in allocating resources,
Yes.
um,
And resolving conflict.
and resolving conflicts within the organization or with other stakeholders like customers.
Exactly. Securing
Also,
deals.
yeah, securing deals.
Exactly. So negotiation is very important in strategic leadership. Whether you are dealing with conflict resolution, whether you're dealing with securing business deals, it is important to decide how your negotiation panel as a strategic leader will go. And like you said, when you want to allocate the limited resources, negotiation plays an important role in achieving goals. So successful negotiation does not rely on logic like people think. It requires you understanding people. It requires you understanding how to manage emotions. So strategic leaders must use a mix of thinking, must use a mix of emotional skills to navigate these complex negotiations. So there are five key abilities that they should rely on. One of which we've just talked about, which is emotional intelligence, social skills, and self-regulation. So emotional intelligence here, leaders who are emotionally aware can recognize their own feelings and those of others. So this will help calm tense situations and also respond with empathy, which will lead to better outcomes. So social skills, so being a good communicator is very important. So strategic leaders must listen effectively. They must build trust. They must pay attention to body language and tone. So these skills should help them build relations and find a win-win situation. Self-regulation, so they must also learn to stay calm under pressure, especially when negotiations are tense or they are high stakes. So strategic leaders must be able to manage what their reactions. They must avoid emotional outbursts. They must stay focused on long-term goals. So in short, when you're dealing with negotiation, it's at a strategic level. It's more than just arguing or exchanging words. It's about you understanding, having patience, and finding solutions that will benefit everyone who's involved. All right. So this is what we're talking about. So what are some of the challenges that are involved in strategic leadership? And also, how do we develop these strategic leadership skills? What are some of the challenges that are involved in strategic leadership? So strategic
Okay.
leadership, uh-huh. Strategic leadership
Okay.
involves you guiding an organization towards attaining long-term successes. But this role comes along with a lot of challenges, especially where decision making is concerned. Leadership here is demanding, and here are some of the challenges that we can expect. Number one, resistance to change. So many people in organizations are uncomfortable with change wherever because it comes with a lot of uncertainty. Employees may fear losing jobs, they may face new responsibilities, and also adapting to unfamiliar ways of working. So strategic leaders must help people to understand the reasons for the change. So they must involve them in the process and support them during the process. The other challenge is that of short-term pressures. So while strategic leadership focuses on the future, organizations must expect immediate results. Okay? So these will create a tension between achieving long-term goals and meeting these short-term performance targets. So effective leaders should also learn to balance both by ensuring that today's actions will support tomorrow's vision. The other challenge is that complexity and ambiguity. Complexity and ambiguity. So leaders will face conflicting stakeholder demands in unpredictable environments. But this simply means that strategic leaders will operate in environments that are constantly changing and uncertain. So they may face conflicting interests that will come from stakeholders like the investors, like the employees, like the customers or the regulators. So as a strategic leader, you need to navigate this complexity. It requires you being flexible, of sound judgment, and are able to make decisions even when not all information is available. The other challenge is that of ethical dilemma. So strategic decisions often have serious consequences on humans, people, communities, the environment. So leaders must consider how these choices will affect the reputation of the organization, the social responsibility, and choosing what is right over what is easy or profitable. This is a major leadership challenge, right? So let's look at some of the how to develop strategic leadership skills. So it's a process. So strategic leadership is not just about natural talent. It can be developed through training and development. It can be developed through experience or self-awareness. So there are some of the effective ways that can be used to build strategic leadership skills. Number one, leadership development programs. So these are formal training sessions. They come through workshops, courses like you are learning now to teach leadership in people. Are leaders born? Are they made? People say they are born, people say they are made, people say it's both. So it helps leaders to gain tools and techniques for guiding the organization. Mentoring and coaching. So learning from experienced leaders can be an invaluable asset. So mentors and coaches who offer guidance, they'll share their real life experiences and help upcoming leaders to grow confident in their skill. Scenario planning and strategic simulation. So these are other methods that will allow leaders to practice their thinking ahead of analyzing possible situations. So they'll test responses, they'll build the ability to think critically and prepare for uncertainty. Then feedback and reflective practice. So great leaders will regularly seek feedback from their peers and team members. So they will reflect on their own actions. So they'll make successes and mistakes. So they will work on feedback. So great leaders are regularly there to seek feedback from their peers, from their team members. They also reflect on their own actions. Then lastly, cross-functional assignments. So they'll take roles and projects outside one's usual area, such as working in different departments. They help leaders understand the organization as a whole. So this will build insight and the ability to make strategic decisions. So let's look at the question now here. Section A, choose compulsory. To communicate adeptly in social situations, you need to understand other people's emotions and point out or view and use information to monitor your own emotions and behavior. That said, social skills are also informed by culture and broader awareness of how the organization influences perceptions and actions. In a negotiation, of social skills can help to establish rapport and draw insight from your environment and ease the tension and pick on non-verbal cues, humor. It will amaze you how far you can get with fitting humor. As you work to hone your emotional intelligence, remember that low stakes practice makes high stakes success. But trying anything for the first time in high stakes situations will only add to your stress and deter you from doing it right. There are countless everyday opportunities to hone your EQ skills and become more effective communicator and negotiator. It also helps to have a foundation to work from. Negotiation often invoke a variety of emotions, especially fear and anger. Emotions can cause tense, irritation, and cause conflicts to escalate and negotiations to break down. Human emotions are part of evolutionary legacy. Fear and anger helped early humans avoid or fight predators. Love and empathy help those made from and form groups. However, human behavior has changed. Responses that served ancestors will may be less helpful in responding to challenges of the modern world. Understanding evolutionary function of human emotions can help us deal with them today. Emotions play positive and negative roles in negotiation. On the positive side, emotions make us care for our own interests and about people. Empathy can improve understanding and facilitate communication. Both hiding emotions and making vigorous displays of emotion can be effective negotiation tactics. Legitimately expressed anger may communicate the party's sincerity and commitment. On the other hand, fear and anger usually play negative roles in negotiation. Anger can come in from perceived rules, violations, rudeness can make a person feel vulnerable and exposed, which prompts anger. Feelings of shame may turn into anger, and negotiations. Anger can also result from breaches of trust and constructive comments when negotiating a working relationship or facing angry constituents. Anger may also be a response to misinterpretation, excessive demands, illegitimate exercises of another negotiating power, or taking issues personally. In these situations, the best rule remains anger is often the last resort. When anger dominates, negotiators lose focus. The mission or the misdirection. Even worse, it broadens the objectives and clouds decision making. Relating the case study, in a negotiation, skills can help you establish rapport and draw insight from the environment, ease tension, and pick on nonverbal cues and add humor. Discuss how social awareness could be of great use during workplace negotiations. But B, emotions can cause tense and even irrational behavior can cause conflicts to escalate. And negotiations can break down. Explain the importance of self-awareness, self-management during the workplace negotiation. Empathy can improve understanding and facilitate communication. Discuss the role of social management in organizational communication. In negotiations, anger can occur when parties are under time constraints and concerned with maintaining work relationships or facing angry constituents. Show how all the components of emotional intelligence could be used in such circumstances. So 10 marks. So this is a case study of 40 marks. So we start with part one. I want to discuss how social awareness can be of great use during workplace negotiation. So we discussed that in negotiation, social skills can help you establish rapport and draw insight from environment, ease tension, and pick up other nonverbal cues and add humor. So our response is that social awareness is the ability to accurately perceive and understand emotions, motivations, and concerns of others. So in a workplace, this skill becomes critical in creating a constructive dialogue and maintaining positive atmosphere. So before I get to look at our solutions, maybe what do you pick up from what we have read and learned? How does social awareness help during negotiations in the workplace in your own language and understanding?
Okay, in my own understanding, social awareness is mainly being able to understand and put yourself in the other party's shoes. That's where the empathetic part comes in. And in doing that, I think you create an environment for negotiations, or you're able to break the ice for negotiations and set a great atmosphere for dialogue.
So by definition, we mentioned to say social awareness is simply the ability to do what? To understand emotions, to understand other people's needs, and to have concern for others. So in a workplace or negotiations rather specifically, this skill plays a very important role because it will help individuals in a room to understand the power of dynamics of how to respond appropriately. So how does self-awareness help, number one, in understanding nonverbal cues? So in negotiations, body language, like we said, facial expressions, the tone, all these will reveal something more than words. So a socially aware negotiator can pick from these cues how to gauge honesty, how to gauge interest, how to gauge tension. All right. So it helps by picking up these nonverbal cues. A socially aware negotiator can pick up these cues and gauge the ability that one has in speaking honestly. Secondly, building rapport. It helps in recognizing other people's what? Emotional stakes. It makes it easier to relate with them. So you create a comfortable environment which will help to reach agreements faster. So social awareness also helps in adjusting the communication style depending on how and what tone the individual is sounding. So a socially aware person will allow, as a negotiator, to adjust your tone and language to suit the audience, so you make the message more acceptable. A socially aware person will also diffuse the tension. You will notice the early signs of frustration from somebody or resistance. So if you're socially aware, you can now steer out a conversation away from conflict. You talk about something that will assure an individual. A socially aware person also understand group dynamics, so they'll help understand who holds influence in a group, in a room, and know who to target. So, being in a situation whereby there's a ringleader, if you're socially aware, you're going to target somebody who holds the influence, and you know how to treat them. So, in a conclusion, in a workplace or negotiation, social awareness will enable negotiators to respond with empathy and strategically to increase what the chances of getting a successful outcome. Second part is, what is the importance of self-awareness in self-management in the workplace? So self-awareness is simply the ability to understand your own emotions and how it affects others. And self-management is simply what? The ability to control your emotions and impulses in challenging situations. So why does it matter in emotions? Why does it matter in negotiations? Sorry. So self-awareness, it will help you to recognize what emotion triggers that will um, arise during intense moments. So it will allow you to stay grounded and focused instead of you reacting impulsively. It will also improve clarity and purpose. It will make you be more confident as a strategic leader in making what? Strategic expressions. Whereas on the other hand, we're dealing with self-management. Self-management will keep emotions of anger and frustrations in check. Self-management will prevent you from an outburst. It will make you calm and be a reasoned decision maker. Okay? So this is on the second part. I don't know whether you have any additions to add.